welcome to the Lemon Narrative with Sabrine. I am Sabrine, your host. I'm a writer and a storyteller, and I'm interested in the human experience narrative. In this podcast, I meet amazing people to listen to them. And today I have a special guest, Sun. Hi, Sun. How are you?
Hi, Sabrine. Hi, everyone. Thank you
Uh,
for having
thank
me.
Thank you for being here. I am so excited for today. This podcast started with my interview with Sun, the idea. So I am really, really happy to have you today. I'll let you introduce yourself to the people.
Okay. Hi, my name is Sun. I am the founder of Night Owls, which is a digital agency in New York that focuses on personal brands. And I'm also founder of Night Owl Nation, which is the community where I met Sabrine. Um, and it's a community where we get together with a bunch of entrepreneurs and creators get together and we practice storytelling together.
Yeah,
So that's
we have fun.
my intro.
Yeah, I had many members as interviewed, and we had so much fun. And all of them were like, "Oh, we met at Night Owl Nation. We met at Night Owl Nation." And by the time I edit the episode and put it out, and I'm like too stressed, I never link your profile or anything. So now I have you, the founder, and we'll be talking, and people get to know you, which is even more
Awesome.
amazing. Um, so the concept of the podcast is me asking you, what would you tell me if I'm writing a feature film about you? Um, I have many questions for you, of course, but the first question is usually it's different for people, but I noticed that you said, I am the founder of Night Owls, I am the founder of Night Owl Nation, and you talked about storytelling, your agency, but who you are as a person.
Who am I as a person?
Yeah.
Like in
Human
what
being.
sense? Yeah.
Okay, like I know. Okay, let me tell you, explain this to you. Like
Can
two
you give me
days
an
ago,
example? Yeah.
yes, yes. 2 days ago, not today, actually yesterday, I was listening to this podcast about workaholics people, right? And I loved
Mhm,
it so much because she said, she said workaholics get a holidays depression because they
mhm,
only have one role in life, the job they have. If they're a teacher, they're a
mhm,
teacher. If they're this, they're this. But
mhm,
what you need in life is to have many roles you're
mhm.
playing. So you don't, if one of those roles goes away, you don't feel lost, you don't feel empty and void inside.
Got it. Yeah.
So what she said is someone could be a teacher, this is their job, right? And a husband, a father, a brother, a friend, a best friend, a colleague, all these things, right? So, as a person, human being,
I think I'm all of those things.
you are.
I mean, I guess I never, like some people call me a workaholic, but
I don't think
I
you
don't
are.
think I've ever considered myself a workaholic because,
Mm.
like, I don't know, when I think of workaholic, I think of like someone wearing a suit that goes into the office every day and like they're there late at night and,
Yeah.
like that's kind of what I picture in my head.
Mm.
And I'm definitely not that. I do work a lot, but at the same time, I don't think of it as like it's hard because like for example, when I show up on Sunday service, right, on Sunday,
Mm. Yeah.
and I'm teaching a class or I'm, we're doing Sunday service.
Mm.
I don't feel like that's work to me at all. Like if I if I could only do one thing in my life, like it would be Sunday service. So it's like imagine I tell you like for you, right? What is the highlight of what's the one thing you look forward to more than anything, like in a week
In my week,
or in a month or it doesn't matter, yeah, in your life.
um, usually being with my family. But if we're talking about Night Owl Nation, it's the Sunday service.
No, no,
Um,
like in just
in
in life.
general,
Yeah.
oh, in life, I look forward for so many things, son. Um,
That's a good
I
life.
am greedy. I am greedy. Picking one thing is not this is
But
my
you know how like
weakest.
some people are like looking forward to this video game coming out and they're gonna wait in line to
Yeah.
get it, right? Or some people look
Uh,
forward to this movie coming out or going out to dinner at this
with
new
friends.
place,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah. Yeah, so I think my things are usually books and dramas. because I'm into writing, so I find inspiration in those places. So if I bought a book, it will be I want to read the book, I want to finish it today, which is not possible.
So that's like
And
if a new book that comes out that you're looking
yeah,
forward to, like you're
yeah,
like,
yes,
ah,
yes,
it's
yes.
coming out today or something. Yeah.
Yeah,
So that's how I feel about Sunday service every week.
mm, mm,
So it's hard for me to look at Sunday service as work, just as
okay,
it would be hard for you to look at reading a book as work, right?
yeah.
Something like that. That's why I can't really. It's hard for me to consider myself a workaholic for that reason.
I don't
But
think you
I am
are.
also a lot of those other things. I'm a son to my parents. I'm a brother to my sister. I'm
Yeah,
a husband to my wife. I'm all of those things. Yeah.
and you're my teacher.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
I do see you as a
I
teacher. I don't know, like a mentor, a teacher, you know what I mean? Because I have to say that I didn't have good relationships with all my teachers. So,
mm,
and I like redefining, or like, what's the
who
word?
who do you think is the most influential person in your life? Like your dad, your mom, your best friend? Like
Influential.
who do you think influenced you the most in your life?
Depends on the influence you're talking about.
Like if you were to divide up like your whole personality, this is all of you, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's like some of them is like has to do with work, some of them with your personality, your values, and all of those things, right?
I think my values goes with my religion the most.
Mhm.
And
So
my
like
family.
God
Yes,
would be your
God.
biggest
And
influence.
yes, my I have to say it is God for me, because I literally make decisions like not wearing nail
That's so
polish,
good. I
you
think
know?
that's the beauty of religion
Yeah.
is that we don't have to depend on humans to like
No.
influence, right? Like
That's
there's
yeah.
always a true north. Yeah.
Yeah, that's why when you asked me, I was like, I don't want to say a person,
Yeah.
but I didn't know how to answer it. That's why I asked you what influence you're talking about. And this is good for, I think, religious people and people who hold faith, is because when you have no one to go to,
Hmm.
you can just pray.
Yeah.
And I had those moments in my life where, like, literal there's no one to help me. No one can do anything.
Hmm.
So the only way for me to get the strength and go forward is
It's good.
praying.
I'm a little bit jealous of like religious people because
You are?
like you're Muslim, right?
Yes.
So Marwa. Do you know Marwa? And
Yes.
so she's also Muslim, and she was
The
kind of
name
going through a
suggests she
rough.
is. Yeah.
Yeah, she was going through a little bit of rough time, I guess. Like and because maybe she was feeling lost in her career or something like that. But when what she said to me was she said that like she really needed to get in touch with her spiritual side, and because like when she was like at top of her game, like when
Mm-hmm.
life was great and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't like she was trying to like, okay, I need to get more followers. I need to be a better mom. I need to be a better businesswoman. Like that's not what she was thinking, right? She was just led by her spirituality. Like whatever she does,
Mm-hmm.
she was trying to do a quality job because that's what her religion, told her to
Says.
do.
Yes.
And that everything just worked out when she did that, when she was like more in touch with her spiritual side. But now that she's actually trying to, like plan things in a materialistic way,
No, I can't
it's like
imagine.
it's yeah.
Remember when you said, in your podcast, you told me, I said, I things just happen to me, and you said you kind of passive.
Yeah, yeah,
I wanted to bring religion into it, but I didn't want,
yeah.
because I didn't know you
I
that
guess
well.
that's
That's
kind of
a,
how, yeah.
yeah, because for me, I literally, son, everyone knows by now, I had a kidney
Hmm.
transplant. I was told none of my family members was a match,
Hmm.
and I did everything, and comes to the time where I was just sitting like that. And I remember going to the specialist office, and he said, Sabrina, the wait for your blood type is, the average is 7 years. And I was 28, right? And I just
Wait, so
finished.
what was your immediate reaction when you heard that 7 years?
Nothing. Absolutely nothing.
You were just blank, like
Absolutely nothing. I just looked at
what
him and
just
I said,
happened?
okay. I don't do reactions, and this is
Uh-huh.
why people, when I tell them like I'm going through something, they're like, "Are you okay?" Because they don't see anything.
Mhm.
It's not a poker face. It's literally I feel nothing at the moment because I do believe whatever is happening at the moment.
Oh, so it's not even like it's not
It's just
negative or it's not like shock or
it's
anything. It's
not
just
negative. It's not a shock, right? It's more like, okay, I was chosen, not chosen like
got it.
as the prophet thing or anything. This is
Mhm.
happening right now. It is what it is.
But have
Decision
you
for
always
me.
been like that?
Yeah.
I was the exact opposite of that.
Yeah. Okay.
I was like, I
It is
wouldn't
about
accept
you.
anything.
You would argue everything.
Yeah, so for me, when you say like accepting things,
Mm,
that that came out of necessity, and that's something that I evolved into. And not only that,
mm,
every day I have to remind myself that because 10 things happen a day where I'm like, no, I don't accept that.
mm,
So I have to, whenever that happens, I'm like,
mm,
okay, calm down, son.
mm.
You have no choice but to accept it, or whatever it is, right?
Yeah. You're like, I
If
have
like
to.
I, yeah,
You have resistance
hmm
to everything. You
like
resist it.
if I'm doing a talk or if I'm doing a class
Okay.
and not enough people shows up, I'm like, no, I won't accept this, and then I have to be like, son, what are you gonna do about it? Like, you know what I mean?
Sometimes, like, yeah, I do. Because sometimes, like, there's nothing you can do and you to accept it so you can go to the next thing in life,
Mhm.
right? Okay. Let me ask you the first question. This is
I
about
feel
you.
like I'm
You're
asking
interviewing.
more about
Yeah.
you. I'm just a very
Such a
curious
curious
person.
person. Yeah, it's okay. I'll come again to your podcast. But your podcast is
Yeah,
coaching, so
let's
I
do
don't
it.
know.
No, yeah, the next time you come on, I have to just interview you.
Okay, perfect. Okay, the first question for people who usually come are is in your feature film, what would you choose from your life so far as your opening scene? A moment in your life that was just
Um, that's a good question. Because you know how like when you look at your life, there's like all these chapters in your life, right?
mm-hmm.
And I'm trying to
Like
think like what would be the most significant
it doesn't have to be one.
part of. Yeah,
It could
I guess
be
like, like if I were to, I think there's three significant moments in my life,
okay.
right?
Tell me.
So I think the first is um I think the first is when I first moved to the US
How old were you?
because it was like I was like 10, 11.
Okay.
I think I was like 10, just turning
Okay.
11. And because it was like such a it had a huge impact on my life, right?
Yeah.
Um and then I would say the second one is when I was 19. I I left home for the first like when I was 19, I had a
Mm-hmm.
huge fight with my dad and we stopped talking for like 10 years. So I had like a huge kind of a breakaway. And then I would say when I was around late 20s, 30, around the time when I got married, I
Was
would
it
say it's
getting
probably another.
married or meeting Gigi?
I think it's getting married
Mm,
because me and Gigi we were like boyfriend and girlfriends. But I feel like when you get married,
mm.
your relationship just goes to a whole
Shift.
nother level
Mm,
where you know what I mean now like
yeah.
we're
If it's
family, right? So
yeah.
it's you know so
Okay.
Gigi had a huge influence in my life of
I'm
like
aware.
how I am today.
Mm.
I don't even think she was doing it on purpose. I had a conversation with Yelena about this where you know because I'm so stubborn, right? Like we were talking about toxic relationships and
Mm-hmm.
the type of person that's like no matter what you do, they're very selfish, narcissistic, toxic, and
Mm-hmm.
all of that. Like I was
Mm-hmm.
all of that to the and like worst possible way, right? No matter what happens, it's never my fault. It's always
Mm-hmm.
your fault, Gigi, and like things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But Gigi's been so patient with me,
Mm-hmm.
and she's literally killed me with kindness
Oh.
to a point where I literally started to, and that's the only way they could have done it. If she
Mm,
pushed back, anyway,
mm,
like I would have resisted and I would have become more defensive and double down on my bad ideas even more. But the fact that she was so open and so trying to be understanding on my side is
Hmm.
what made me realize all my flaws in the long
Okay.
run. I mean, it
Okay.
took a while, but yeah.
We'll talk about that more. But I'm going to visit each moment.
Yeah.
Um, you said moving to the US. How did this change you? Because 10 years old, I remember moving at 12 years old from one place to a place,
Hmm.
even though I was born somewhere else. But I was living in Sudan for 7 years, then moved to Dubai, and I was like 12,
Okay.
and then went back and forth, etc. But I remember the shift. I remember a lot of
Like
things.
it's
So
culturally, like what's the difference
culturally,
between, because they're both Muslim countries, right?
um language was a different, not language but
Oh, really?
accents, the way,
Okay.
yeah, I didn't understand what they were saying. They didn't understand me, I didn't understand them, right? But because I also moved to a small town, not a main city, but also like there's so many things here. But for you, what, like Korea, South Korea, right, and US, huge difference, right? What
Yeah.
were the
You
things?
know, when you were young, you don't really notice those. Like
No,
a
you
lot of
don't.
these things are like things that you reflect in the past, and like now looking back, I'm like, oh wow, that actually had a huge impact in my life.
Mm,
But I didn't know that back then. I was just like excited to like, oh, I'm in America, and like I'm just having fun. And I'm gonna go to 7-Eleven, play Street Fighter, whatever. Like it's when you're a child, it's different. But like now looking back, the biggest shift that happened is I went from a majority to a minority, right?
mm,
Like I was such a confident kid when I was in Korea. Like
yeah.
you never when you're Korean and you live in Korea, like I remember like I don't know who said this joke, but you know what Chinese food is called in China? Food.
Yeah.
Like like when you're in Korea, I don't think of
Yeah.
myself as Korean, right?
Yeah.
Or
You're just a
minority or
person.
Asian or
Yeah.
anything like
Mm.
that, right? It's just everybody's Korean,
Son.
everybody's
Yeah.
Asian, everybody speaks
You're just
Korean, right?
son. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden you move to America, and all of a sudden like I'm Korean,
Yeah.
I'm Asian, and
Asian
I eat
and
Korean food. Yeah. So that
the
probably
smell, everything.
had a huge impact on my life, without me knowing at the time.
But
I
did
got
you
bullied
feel
for
it?
the first time,
Yeah.
like
I was gonna ask
when
that.
I moved here.
Mm.
People started making fun of me for the first time. I was
Mm.
like, for the first time in my life, I wasn't considered cool, like all
Hmm.
those things.
You lost the status,
Mhm.
right? You lost the status
I
you
remember,
had.
like,
Go ahead.
that show Fresh Off the Boat with
Sorry.
so it's like a story about what's his name? Yes, it's some Asian author, and it's about how he's living in Florida, Asian family living in Florida. And I remember the dad went back to Taiwan to visit, and his brother was doing so well, so successful.
Mm.
And he's like telling his wife, it's like, if we were living here in Taiwan, like we are the white people of Taiwan. And that's how
Yeah.
that's kind of like how I feel. Like when I was living in
Mm.
Korea, like I was like the white person of Korea, right? And now,
You were the white person.
yeah,
And now you
exactly,
lost that. You became the
yeah.
minority. What did you speak
I mean, I didn't even
English?
realize that at that age, but
No, of
uh,
course not. But you did feel the
yeah, it
the
took me about
sadness and everything
yeah,
else, right? Like you
mhm.
probably were confused to what, like I
Yeah,
remember
like
I
when you were
just thought,
getting bullied, you're like, what's going on? Like,
yeah, like why are they doing this? What did I
yeah,
do?
yeah.
Right? And how long it took you to learn English? Was it like a hard thing to do?
No, I think it took me like a year, maybe two
Yeah.
years at most. When you're
So
young,
you're like,
you
yeah,
learn fast, right? Yeah.
lucky you. It took me all my life.
You know what? I mean,
Yeah.
it took me 1 or 2 years to get to a point where I can understand people in conversational, right?
Yeah.
But I feel like even now, when I talk to like real Americans that were born and raised here,
Mm.
there are certain cultural things and there are certain things that they know that I don't know because I came at a certain age, right? Like the things
Yes.
that children talk about. Like for
Mm.
example, when I first came here, like all the way until like I was in college
Mm,
and I watched Pee Wee Herman. I didn't understand what people said when they say, "I know you're, but what am I?" Right?
mm,
And I didn't know what that meant. Like people
yeah.
would say it all the time, but I didn't know what that meant until like I finally watched the movie and got the reference, right?
No.
And so things like that, yeah.
You know what I do? Well, back in the day, there's no Google. I'll just Google everything people are talking about. And like, not always, unless I'm actually interested in the conversation and actually going back to these people
Yeah.
again, I will. But the thing with me, I just don't mind not knowing, right?
Mm,
Like, this is the society differences and all of that. It doesn't bother me. It actually, it's interesting to me, but people don't understand it when you're the new kid, especially kids, right? I remember when I was with an after school program in another city, which didn't have a lot of minorities. The kids used, like, I would say something that's, I would say just go outside, because outside for
mm,
me is just outside this room.
mm,
They were just the kids being kids. So they
mm,
just go outside to the park, because I
mm.
told them this is a said. So even though
Uh,
they know, right? Because they're trolling. So one day I was like, guys, I English is not my first language, blah blah blah. It wasn't a talk. It was just one. I wanted them to understand.
mhm,
And then they got it, like, to the point
mhm,
where one of the kids would say, Sabrina, we don't say this, we say this. It was so cute.
mhm,
And I was like, thank you so much.
mhm.
um but yeah, moving places. What is the best memory you had from coming to America the first time?
I think the what I said before about like I used to go to 7-Eleven every day after school
What did
to
you
get a slip.
get? A sl-
They had to play Street Fighter. Like
yeah. Okay. I didn't know about Seven
yeah,
Eleven till
things
I
were
was
very
here.
different back then. I feel
Yeah.
like a lot of parents just left the kids alone and
Yeah.
kids would just go outside and play by themselves. Like they didn't
Same.
have to be
Yeah.
babysat all
Yeah.
the time, right?
No, I understand. We were left alone all the time. Nothing happened.
Yeah. I mean,
Okay.
and I don't know why it can't be like that. Like, I guess, is it, I don't know, is it that much more dangerous now than it was in the 90s? I don't think so. Like,
Um,
I don't personally don't
there are
think so.
many options for the
Mhm.
child when they're alone to do a lot of things comparing to before. They have more
Yeah,
freedom to
you mean there's more like, what do you call those?
temptations. I don't know what's the word.
Temptations. Yeah.
Yeah, there are more
Hmm.
temptations to do a lot of
Hmm.
things when they're alone with no supervision, I guess. Um, that's the only thing I can think of,
Yeah.
right? And you want,
Like
and
maybe
I
the internet changed everything. Yeah.
yes, the internet changes everything. And even if the child doesn't know something, his friend knows something, and then they sit
Hmm.
together and a lot of things. I think this is what I hear parents say, to be
Hmm.
honest. Um, but I think this is the only reason. But I know in Canada, they're not the
I also
kid.
think it's because parents are just more paranoid now than they.
Yes,
It's kind of like how when like 100 years ago, 200 years ago, you know, kids would go out and like you know go hunt animals and stuff like
yes,
that. It was like that
the
wasn't considered
normal.
dangerous. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So I just think
Yeah.
that people are more protective now too. They're more concerned with safety than we used to be.
Also, I think it's the parent experience when they
Hmm.
were alone too. Not
Hmm.
everyone was safe when they were alone when they were a child, right?
Hmm.
Maybe you and I were safe, or like, if you were safe when you were a child, not everyone had that luxury. So when they have children, and I think everyone who was not saved in any way or felt neglected, there is this blame towards their parents because they were the child, and the child usually depend on the parents for protection and
Hmm.
safety and those that kind of things. So no matter whatever therapy you do and moving on whatsoever, this idea in your mind is not going to go away when you have a child. You would be the protective one, the one who remembers what happened to you, and you don't want your child to go through
Yeah,
the
but
same.
I don't think that's the. I'm sure there are cases like that, but I think most of it, like in general, right now, if you had like a 10-year-old child, right, 11-year-old
Mm,
child, like a parent right now with an 11-year-old child, if I
Mm,
talk to them right now, they can't conceive of like that child just leaving the house by themselves for the
yeah.
rest of the day and just doing stuff by himself, right?
No.
Like they're like, no, you have to have an adult go with you or like something like that.
Yeah.
Whereas when I was 11 and I came here, like I literally did everything by myself.
Mm,
Without like I would go to the park, go to my friend's house, do whatever it is. Like it wasn't like I needed adult supervision. You know what I mean? And my
yeah.
parents didn't think that way either.
Yeah.
It's just I feel like the culture has changed now, where I feel like
Also,
parents are a
isn't
lot more.
there is a law to when you can leave a
Mhm.
child walk. I think in Canada we have that. I think it's 9 or 10. I don't know.
Oh, you
Uh,
can't just leave him by himself.
They can't. Yes, because I used to when I used to work,
Mhm,
even for my siblings. If my sibling is leaving the school, they're not feeling well. The
mhm.
school would call me if there's an adult at house for the child to go back to, and they would ask me if it's
Yeah,
I
yeah,
have
like
to
that.
agree.
There was no such thing when I was young.
Yeah, there was no such a thing. I remember. No, I remember. Like I grew up in Sudan, but things are. I don't know about now because I don't. I
I
didn't live
also
there.
think that like parents are much more, because there's more data and statistics and stuff like that.
Mm,
Like there's million parenting books, which
mm.
when I
do
was growing
people
up, there,
do people read them? The million books,
I
like
feel like a lot. I know a lot of parents, especially the ones that are kind of affluent,
yeah.
that are like, that are like, oh, I never say this in front of my child, or like
Mm,
they follow these very strict parenting guideline, and I make sure to, talk this way to my child, and because they. But I feel like when I was growing up, everybody just figured it out on their own,
yeah,
right? Like they just, you know what
yeah.
I mean?
And I think you figure it out depends on your child characteristics too. Like you can
Hmm.
because I don't know, you need the child to show you their personality for you to react to it. It's like it's a growing relationship. It
You
can't
know what it is?
follow.
They're
Yeah.
so afraid of the child going through a trauma. So, like, I know a mom who was like talking about like, if you just leave a child alone, like, even if the child gets lost in the mall or something like that, that could be a traumatic experience for that child, right? And, like, she talks about how, like, for the child, the parent is like the person that they depend on the most. So when you like kind of um, whenever there's like a detachment from when the
Mm,
child feels like some sort of detachment, those are traumatic experiences. And I told her, my mom, my dad used to be like, my parents used to be like, son, every time I do something bad,
mm.
like I get in trouble, they'll be like, son, we found you from under a bridge. We're gonna call your real mom and have them come pick you up. And like they'll literally pick up the phone and then like I was so young, I was like I would literally start crying.
Yeah.
And they were like laugh at me, like they thought it was funny, right? And she
It
was
builds
talking about
resilience in you. Yeah.
how traumatic of an experience that is, and like that's horrible, right? I'm like, I thought it was funny. Like, I mean, not I obviously not back then, but like now looking back, it is
It's
kind of
funny.
funny, Like,
I think see, it depends on the character because if
mhm.
maybe she went through the same and she didn't think it was funny. I know that because
No, I didn't
with
think
my
it was funny either because I
no
cried.
at that time, but like right till
Yeah.
now, she
Oh,
she
even
does not
now. Yeah.
yeah, she does not because I know like my sister and I share the same
Hmm.
stuff, right? Some things
Hmm.
I just start laughing. She's like, "Why are you
Hmm.
laughing?" Because she doesn't think it's funny, while I do think it's funny. So I still think it has to do with how the personality of the person, and how they like receive a thing as traumatic or not. But I do, while trauma is not fun, but it teaches you something, in my opinion. I went through a lot of traumatic experiences, and I
Yeah, me
sometimes
too.
I laugh.
I'm actually glad that I got bullied
Yeah.
because one of the things that I think happened to me is that I learned a lot about social behaviors, and I learned a lot about like how to act in society because I
Mm,
got bullied.
yes.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
Mm,
because one of the things that I had to do was I had to for me to not be bullied, I had to be funny, or I had to know how to react to certain things, like in a
Mm,
way that's society like that's
mm,
accepted by society. And I don't know if I could learn any of the social skills if I were growing up in an environment like today, where it was like strictly zero bullying policy and things like that.
mm.
I think then I would have probably grew up to be a very awkward, antisocial kid. You know what I
Sensitive
mean?
too. Yeah. I do because I remember when I got bullied for different things in Dubai, and I mean I say Dubai because people say Dubai, but I was not living in Dubai, you guys. I was
Hmm.
living in a town. Um, so when people like, I
Yeah, if you say
remember,
Dubai, I'm thinking like you went to school in like a Ferrari or like
I just say
wearing all
Dubai
this
because people
designer.
people don't understand when I say United Arab Emirates. So basically, I was
Yeah.
in the capital, Abu Dhabi. My dad worked
Uh-huh.
there, but then we went to a small town by the shore, closer to the Saudi
Mhm.
borders. It was very beautiful place, very beautiful. But well, people have this idea about Dubai that it wasn't back then. It was there. Dubai is still the same, or like more developed now. But the rest of the country, there are places where they're very
Yeah.
things are not the same, right? So when the first time I remember, I would get bullied, for example, for saying certain words in Arabic, and by the which I said before that Sudanese are the blacks of the Middle
Hmm.
East,
Oh,
right?
really? Okay.
Yeah, yeah. And like literally people will say, oh, I love Sudanese
Hmm.
people, I have a Sudani friend, just
Hmm.
like I have a black friend. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? Like I can't be racist. I'm like,
Hmm.
sure, right?
Hmm.
So so I would say certain things and
Hmm.
people just laugh, and I kid you not, I had no idea what they're laughing about because I was just talking, right? And I would just look at them straight in their eyes, trying to figure out, because I'm a curious person about human behaviors and experiences. I'll just, I wouldn't, my face wouldn't show that I'm hurt or anything. I'm just looking at
Hmm.
them like what did I say,
Hmm.
which word
Hmm.
exactly, because I'm curious about that, right?
Hmm.
And eventually by the end of the year everyone became my friend and blah blah blah, even though I did not change anything about my personality. I just was looking at them, thinking. And that, I think, with bullying never goes away. um you get a job, you're the new
Yeah,
employee.
I mean, if I feel like you need to learn how to handle bullies. Otherwise,
Yes,
you're gonna get bullied throughout your adult
everywhere you
life too.
go, like
Hmm.
new job, new environment, like a lot of things, like a lot of things that goes in life needs you to have this bullying experience, I think,
Hmm.
even though it's not fun
Hmm.
thing to go through. Okay, let's move on to you leaving home. Are you comfortable sharing about that more?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I was already. I mean, I was in college, so when you're in college, you're living in the dorm. So I guess I already kind of left home when I was 18, right? But
Yes.
when I was 19, I got into like a big fight with my dad, and I don't even remember about what.
I was gonna say about what, but you forgot, eh?
It was something very small. It was like a very, but I mean, we were like, there was a lot of tension in that relationship, right?
There's
Because
accumulation
of,
of things
hmm
that led to this point.
hmm and I was like I was very rebellious, and
Yeah.
my parents are pretty strict, so
Okay.
it
What
was
were
just
you
bound to
rebellious
happen.
about?
Everything, like I would, when I was in high school, I started
Mm-hmm.
smoking weed, sneak out of my
Okay.
house,
Okay.
hang out with the wrong crowd,
Okay.
all of that.
Why did you
It's
do
one of the
that? Because
reasons
it
why
was
my
fun?
parents, what's that?
Why did you do it? Because it was rebellious to do it, or you actually wanted to do it? What was the reasons for
I
you
think
doing
all,
those?
my mom used to always say, like, son, like, you know, she used to say my curiosity is my worst
Mm,
trait, right? Because I'm such a curious person. I gotta try everything once. You know what
mm,
I mean?
yeah.
So that
Power,
it,
joy at
it
night,
got me into a lot
elevation.
of trouble. Yeah.
Yeah. So you
But I
wanted to
also
try
told my
things.
mom later on in life, like recently, like maybe not recently, but like maybe 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Um, like I told her, like, I think everything that I've achieved in life,
Mm,
I achieved because I was curious. Like I started making websites because I was curious.
mm,
I started getting into design because I was curious. I started everything, like everything I learned in life, I learned because I was curious. So, so she was actually saying like I always thought like you being curious was gonna like be the downfall of your life, but it actually turned out to be the good thing.
Okay. How did you feel? I could talk forever about being curious, but I want to move on.
Mhm.
Yes. So, how did you feel about not talking to your father? Um,
I
and
don't think I
just,
care at all for the first
yeah,
X number of years.
yeah.
I wasn't just like family wasn't like a huge value for me. It wasn't.
Why?
I guess like our family wasn't that close. Like my mom, my dad, my sister, the four of us lived in Korea, while
Mm,
the rest of our family was living in LA.
mm,
Like my uncle, my cousins, like we were all split all over the world, and we didn't
mm,
really like have big family reunions or anything. Like we didn't. So I mean, it's not like you see like these American movies or something like that where like it's all about family, 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 family. Like I
mm,
never grew up like that. Like and even like within our family, it wasn't like your parents don't tell you like I love you or like you don't have deep conversation with your parents. It's a very
mm.
strict like I'm the dad, you're the
Yeah.
son, you
Listen.
listen to me. Like it's a
Yeah.
very military type of relationship. So
And okay.
yeah,
Even with your mother,
yeah. I mean like a little bit better than my dad, but
I
not
just
so
know
much.
that boys love their mothers. The relationships are different. For real. Like, I in my society, the mothers always love the boys, love them like they're like their little thing. They're always, the girl always do a lot of things. There's even memes about it. Haven't you seen it? Like the girl would be doing everything, helping her mom, blah blah blah. The boy
Mhm,
would bring like a cup of water for his mom, and he's
mhm.
like, she's like, "Oh my god, my precious son," blah blah. The
Yeah,
girl
I
would
know
be
what you mean.
like,
Yeah, my mom wasn't like that though.
she wasn't like that. No, so you didn't have
My
that
my
experience.
my sister was like the role model of the family, so
Mm.
she was always
So,
like the loved one
oh, so were you the
because she
black
never
sheep?
got into trouble. She was a goody two shoe, you know.
Okay.
She listened to my
Um,
parents.
was she? Because I know I was a role model.
Mhm.
Uh, yeah, I just tell
I mean, more
myself
than me. I mean, I
more
like
than you, but
yeah,
like what was happening is I never get caught, or I choose the things that I want.
yeah. Maybe she's not. Who knows?
Because I remember, I have a friend. She used to talk about. She was the middle. Was she the middle child? And she used to say, "Oh, my oldest sister. She's an angel. She never did this."
Mhm,
And I would just look at her because I know my sister is saying the same about me. She'll say, "You're so kind." Blah blah blah.
mhm,
I just look at her and she's like, "You never know, do a mistake. You have like the high grades." Blah blah. I just look at her like, no, it's not me because I
mhm,
know who I am, right?
mhm.
So when people say that about their siblings, I don't think they're seeing the siblings for who they are.
Yeah, probably not. Yeah.
Yeah. But how was the relationship between you and her? Because she was the role model. Were you like annoyed or you just didn't care?
No, we were pretty close actually, and
Okay.
yeah, I mean, I didn't hate her for it or anything.
Okay.
She was just always. I mean, she was always like studying, doing. Or she went to Juilliard.
Hmm.
Like my mom really wanted her to be a pianist, so
Oh, wow.
she played piano. She practiced 10 hours a day. She
Okay.
got into Juilliard. She's a professor now. She's
Hmm.
like a hardcore Christian, you know. So she
She's
was like
goal
the complete
oriented, eh?
opposite of me. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Goal oriented. uh, I don't remember those
I mean, I don't
days.
know if she's goal oriented,
Mm.
but she definitely has like, you know, I don't know. Maybe like her being religious has a lot to do with it.
Okay.
Because like I feel like when you're religious, you're more you
At
have different
peace.
you have stronger values, I
Mm.
guess.
Okay. You didn't care about not talking to your dad. Where I have a question. This I have this
I
dad
hated my
relationship thing.
dad. Yeah.
Okay. You hated him? Was it because he was strict? where the hater came from.
Probably. I feel like, I feel like every time I get in trouble,
Mm-hmm.
and like in Korean family, but like getting beat by your parents is a normal thing. That's not like, I feel like, if somebody hears my story in America, they're like, "Oh, your dad used to beat you," and blah blah blah, all these things. Like they would think that I went through some horrible, traumatic, like, um, kind of like abusive
Relation.
childhood or something like that. But it's not
I
like that.
understand you because I was
Yeah.
beaten too. So you can talk.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not like that at all, because
Yeah.
it wasn't just me.
Mm.
Every Korean kid I knew
Yeah.
grew up
Was
like
beat.
that. So
Yeah.
it really, which also reminds me. I feel like trauma is not. It's all relative, right?
Mm.
Like if you grow up in a society where everyone gets beat and you just happen to be one who gets beat,
Mm.
that's not going to be as traumatic as somebody you grew up in a society like here where you're not allowed to touch your kid, and
Mm.
then you're the only one who got beat. Like,
Yeah.
and also, like, there's a difference between getting beat because your dad is like an abusive drunk versus getting beat because like your dad is strict and he actually loves you and he wants you to
Mm.
be proper, right? Like where's
Yes.
that coming from, right?
Yeah.
That also
The
matters too.
intentions. And also
Yeah.
sometimes you did something that you're not supposed to do.
Hmm.
That
Yeah,
does
that's the
not
thing.
like.
I always knew I did. Like when you get in trouble and you know that you did something wrong, but you also feel like you're being misunderstood at the same
Yes.
time.
Yes.
That's kind of how I felt every time I got beat. I felt like, I felt like, oh, it's like it's not my fault, even though it was. And maybe that kind of added up over time, and I'm just be like, my
I
dad just
hate.
doesn't get me. And he's not even trying to get me or something like that.
I think what I don't know what I'm hearing is you felt
Hmm.
not seen by your dad because he
Hmm.
didn't listen, and that just
Yeah,
made you
I just
feel
feel like
like,
to him it didn't matter. Like,
yeah,
I don't care what you say, son. It
yeah, you
just
have to
sounds like a
follow
whole
the
excuse
rules.
to me.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
you have to follow what I say. I told my dad, I am my father's favorite child. I cannot
Hmm.
deny it. I tried to deny it
Hmm.
forever, so I got away with things. I'm
Hmm.
also the oldest, so his first child, right?
Hmm.
So, and I talk back.
Hmm.
Okay, to the day I'm 33, I still talk back. So, when I was a kid, what you just said, like, I know I got in trouble, blah, blah, blah. I will tell my dad that I'm going to do this. I'll
Hmm.
tell him before I do it, right? He'll be like, don't do that. I'm like, why? I need
Hmm.
to know the reason behind this so I don't do it. And he would say, because I said so, and all that strict parent. Even though
Hmm.
my dad was not a strict one, right? To the
Hmm.
point. My mom was the one who beated me and everything. So I think with him, because there was no way that I can move out.
Hmm.
It got to the point where he had to we had to sit down and him explaining and me listening to his reasons. And it was, and I feel bad now. It was either I understand him, imagine, he's like the father, and I'm like this kid. It's
Hmm.
either I understand where it's coming from and not do it, or I'd be like, I
Oh, I
don't
see
get
what
it.
you
I'm
mean.
gonna do it. I'm just gonna do
For
it.
me, it
And
wasn't like that at all.
no, yeah,
I Everything wrong I did, I knew I was wrong. It
you need,
wasn't like I don't understand why I'm not allowed to smoke cigarettes. Like I know why.
but you still wanted to
Like
do
it's
it.
yeah, it's just.
That's true rebellion.
I
I
mean, so
admire
like
you.
wh-
I admire you. That, I mean, at that young age, um,
well, you're saying like why is it bad to smoke? Like is that what you mean? I guess.
see, we have different personalities.
Hmm.
I didn't like the I knew because of the religion,
Hmm.
right? Like my dad was, he smokes, right? And I would go to
Hmm.
him and be like, if you smoke, you're not smoking in the
Hmm.
house, you're
Yeah,
smoking
that's what I
outside,
did.
right?
Yeah.
I would go to my dad and tell him that. Like the things
Yeah.
I wanted to do were like, for example, my dad. One of the reasons the things my dad wouldn't allow me to do is to go to a hair salon. Now,
Hmm.
that's ridiculous,
Hmm.
absolutely ridiculous, right? To the point. But I understand now, I understand where is he coming from because of the history of the whole experience back in my city, because I've seen, not seen it, but when I grew up to understand the concepts, he's thinking of it as, I
Oh, I
understood
see what you
why
mean.
it was
Okay,
a
yeah.
taboo. It was just a taboo, but I didn't
Hmm.
understand where the taboo coming from. Plus, I don't live there, right? So the things I was asking for, my dad was strict with me as the first child. You know how the first child is not allowed to do a lot of things? That's
Hmm.
I didn't even have a phone, Everyone else was having a phone. I
I
didn't
think
have
that's
a
actually
phone.
important that a child understands why they're they're being told not to do something rather than just
Yeah.
say
Yeah.
because I said so.
So,
Or, yeah.
yes, because if and this is what I said when I wanted to do a piercing in my nose, and he's like, that's a taboo, blah blah. I said, well, it's a taboo where you used to live. I
Hmm.
live in Canada. It's not a taboo here. And it's
Hmm.
something I want to do. And like we had a huge talk about, I mean, I already have done it by then.
Hmm.
Of course. He was just taking it off. And I was
Hmm.
like, why? And we went through all why and blah blah. And then because I said so in the community and I don't
Hmm.
live there and everything else, right? And I was not a child. I was in my 20s when I did that. But it was a different thing for you because you were rebellious and you wanted to do the things, you want to try things even though you know they're bad from their point of view and from
Yeah,
your
maybe
point
I
of view.
didn't know it was bad.
Yeah.
Like for
Okay.
example, if I sneak out of the house in the middle of the night, okay, I
Yeah.
don't know, did I do it? Did I do it because I was being rebellious? I'm like, this is not bad. I'm just gonna do like I wasn't thinking that far. It was just like, okay, I know it's bad. I shouldn't be sneaking out in the house in the middle of the night,
But
but I did. Yeah,
so you were just living your age.
yeah. I knew I was
Yeah.
doing something bad.
Yeah, you were
I
just
didn't know
living your
why it
age
was
as a
bad.
child.
Yeah,
Yeah. You're just living the age
and
you
yeah.
were at with all these experiences because kids at your age and where you are snuck out of the house, smoke weed
Hmm.
and did all of that. So you were
Yeah,
just doing the same being yourself.
yeah.
But
And I just assumed they're bad because
yeah.
uh, I I didn't really think that far. Be like, okay, why is this bad? Like it wasn't me critically thinking. And
Mm.
looking back, I probably should have been more critical of it, but I wasn't.
When did you feel like this has gone for so long? I need to talk to my dad because
It
you
was
said I
because
didn't talk to him
like
for
that's the third part, right? A
yeah
lot of it had to do with Gigi,
with
like
Gigi.
when I was getting
Okay,
married. Yeah.
okay. Let's then move to the third part, in which I really, when I imagined having you here, imagine Gigi by your side and you telling me the story. How did you guys meet? Really, but it's okay.
We just first couple of years it was just like any other dating. Like I met her at work.
Mm,
I asked her out. We started
mm,
going out, and then when we finally just, I guess it was like the about the time when you're about to get married. Like I was in my late 20s,
mm.
um, and yeah, I guess like when we were about to get married, I don't know what happened. I guess number one, like um, I'm about to like start my own family now, so I should probably.
Make
It's
peace.
probably important that my parents meet their future daughter-in-law.
Mm,
Number one, and I also think that my Gigi had a lot to do with it in the sense that like for a few years, even after that, after we got married, like Gigi was doing all the communication with my family, not me. So I would
mm,
hear about my family through Gigi.
mm.
Like Gigi would be like, "Oh, your sister oh, your cousin just got into the school." Like I would get my family news from
Yeah,
my own family from Gigi.
because she was in contact with them all the time.
Yeah,
She
yeah.
cared.
Hmm.
Did she care because, in your opinion, she cared because she loved you and this is your family, or she actually loved them? Or is something it's in her character? How did you view that?
She's just really good in relationships. So
Yeah.
she does that with like
She's just
she's
being
the one that
herself.
tells me about my friends. Yeah. Like that's just how she is. And
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, she does. I mean, she doesn't particularly like, love my family or anything like are more than ordinary. Because
Mm.
like my family didn't approve of her in the beginning. So if anything, she should hate them.
Can I ask
You know what
why?
I mean? Because my in Korea, like they really want you to marry a Korean.
Oh, she's not
Like my
Korean?
dad even straight up told me, I'm disappointed that I wish the only thing like after we reconciled, like I wish the only thing is you married a Korean girl. Like that would
Mm. Okay. That was the only
she's just
reason.
Chinese, by the way.
She's Chinese. I didn't
Yeah.
know. Um, I didn't assume anything, basically.
hmm
This is me living no assumptions life. I try my best.
hmm
I just didn't know what was the reasons I was asking. So how did you reconcile? How did you feel about it? Just reach out to them through Gigi and
Yeah, I still I think even after we kind of started talking again, became a normal family, I still didn't feel that close to them
mm,
or anything like that. It just didn't. For years, it went on like that. Where also they live in Korea, so that probably makes a difference too. Like we don't. It's not like we see each other all the time, you know.
but you can call
Yeah, so Gigi would be the one who calls, and like I get maybe that's just how I am. I'm really bad in um,
communications.
maintaining relationships.
Mm,
So if I'm friends with somebody and they move away, like the
mm,
only ones that I'm still friends with
are the
are
ones
the
around
ones
you.
that make the effort to reach out to me, and
Okay,
then
you're that
we'll
person.
we'll go to
This
dinner or something like that. Yeah.
this relates to what you said that you have a narcissistic.
hmm I literally need to put. I don't know if it was you. Somebody said like I literally need to put it in my calendar. Like call your friend so
I
and
did.
so. Like if I
I
don't,
did.
I literally wouldn't talk to anyone.
Hmm. I never understood people like you. You
I
know
mean,
why?
it's also the reason why I hate sales. Like I hate cold calls. I hate all those
I
things.
would be sitting here. If you're
Mm-hmm.
my friend, I'll think about you. I'll voice message you or like I'll do what I want to do. I to the point where it's not about me. One day I'll tell you this. But
hmm
like I never understood how people I feel like we need connection. I'm not just doing it because I'm the good person who reach out to people. There's a selfish part here. Is that I
Yeah,
cannot
that's how
live.
Gigi is. Yeah,
You need but with Gigi I feel
Gigi always
mm,
Gigi has somebody that she's hanging out with all the time.
yeah.
Like she would, like yesterday, she went out to like do a bunch of stuff with one of our
Mm,
neighbors, and like I guess maybe like I'm very logical. I'm
mm.
like a very robotic. So
Because you have
even
an
for me, like
analytical brain.
yeah,
Yeah.
like I don't see a point of me going out to dinner with a friend of mine unless we have something to talk about. If we have a specific thing that we need to talk about and get through a
Yeah.
discussion, like so I think of that as it's almost like meeting. Like what it's so pointless.
So how do you have fun? What's your fun activities if not connection with human being, with other human being?
Like I never understood also like the I hate vacations. I
You
feel
do?
like vacation is the most boring thing in the world. Like me, especially the kind of vacations where we go somewhere, we sit on the beach, we read my book on the beach, get some
Yeah.
tropical drinks, and go to like some fancy dinner at night.
Oh,
I'm
I've
like
never
that
done
sounds,
that before, so it sounds
but you
waste
know
of
like how
time.
people love that. Like,
Yeah, not my culture,
it's,
so I cannot relate to
uh,
it. But I've seen it
okay,
in
yeah,
movies.
yeah.
So
Yeah, I'm like, why would I pay money and go out of my way to do this? Like, I rather, I, for me, and like, okay, here's another thing. When I first got a motorcycle,
mm,
like, I had to keep coming up with excuses so I can go somewhere on my motorcycle. But
mm,
that's not how most people are with motor. It's not like a car, right? People
Yeah.
they just go for a ride for no reason, right?
So why did you get it?
Yeah, because that's what I wanted to do. But once I got it, I'm like, oh, but like
But
I
you
don't need
didn't
to go
answer
anywhere.
now my question. What do you do for the fun?
Maybe that's why I work so much because like
Mm.
I love having conversations. I love having conversations, but not like you know
But like,
conversations about nothing, which is what I
but
feel like
okay. When you go to a meet, like
when I go
gatherings.
out to dinner with friends. I feel like we're having a conversation about nothing. Like, oh, did you see Taylor Swift? Oh, did you hear what happened with Kanye West? Like, oh, I could care less. Like, I really don't. Like, who won the basketball game? I can literally care less. You know
As
what I mean?
someone with close friends from all over the world, this is not what friends talk about.
Or like even like a lot of times what they talk about is they talk about somebody else in our friend group. They'll be like, oh, so and so just got married, and they're like, okay, I could care less. Like,
Mm,
do you
interesting.
understand what I mean?
I do. I do because I have those
Mhm.
type of friends. But then I have the friend that um I have a friend
But would you
where I
say
would mm,
more people in the world are like that?
oh, more people
Like,
in the world are like that. Because I had a friend when we sit together, she's like talking about people, and I looked at her and I said, "Can you stop doing that?
hmm
You either talk to me about something we're interested in, or
hmm
not. I don't like talking about people, you know." And this is who she is, and this is like, like this
but
is
don't you
one.
think that's how most people are?
I do. I do. That's why it's
Yeah.
hard to find the right connection. This is what I'm telling you. You have to make so many connections until, remember when you told me that you're going to find your people?
hmm
So, same with friends. I actually did not have good friends until like later in life. I mean, I had the friends that I met in, like, there were friends who are still my friends I met in elementary school, high school, and we had
hmm
this connection. And I kid you not, I still message them, I still check on them, but I know we're not as close because we have different lives,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
And they live in different places.
Yeah.
I live
I
in,
have a lot of friends like that from
yes.
childhood. From
But
yeah.
then I one of the closest friends I have, her and I never met. We never met in person. We met on a meditation group, and she
hmm
messaged me um because I did the meditation for another topic and people were asking questions and the leader was not responding. So I was responding instead, you know? So she messaged me to ask about something, and she lives in Abu Dhabi where I used to live. She's like, "Oh, where are you?" And I was like, "In Canada." I was like, "Yeah." She was like, "I work in that hospital." I was like, "You really? I used to live like a couple of streets away." And that's how we started talking.
I see
And
what you mean. Yeah.
then literally,
There's
what
just
I
some
do,
people that you click with. Yeah.
you click with, and then our conversation, like the last one we had, is me telling her about Night Owl Nation and you, and sending her your profile. I kid you not.
Uh-huh.
I'm like, this is what I'm doing right now, and
hmm
this is why I like doing this and how I got into
hmm
this. And then she sent me saying, "Guess what? I am doing the course I told you about." And then we talked about kind of our growth and development kind of thing. And then,
hmm
and through that, we talked about our what we were struggling with. And then we agreed that everything we struggle with now is the salt of our life. It's too
hmm
salty, but we're still gonna eat it. So because we want to
hmm
do other things, and we laughed about this. And I kid you not, like, this is how. But to get this relationship with a person, you need to go through all the shitty ones to get there, right?
Well, no, I have a lot of friends like that too. I have a
Yeah.
lot of friends where I do have really deeper conversations with,
Okay, good.
but I
So
still
that's
don't.
fun.
I
But
still
that's
feel
fun.
like that's
That's
yeah.
that's useless. You still
Yeah.
feel like this.
I mean, yeah, I just
Hmm.
feel like what are we doing? Like, okay, yeah, we're sitting here, we're philosophizing, and we're thinking about life and blah blah blah. But what is the goal at the end of the day?
Do you always
And
have
it's
to need a goal?
probably not, but that's how I'm wired, and it's probably the reason why I have to constantly remind myself, be like, son, you just gotta accept it. You just gotta be present and live. Like, if I was like naturally present and naturally just enjoying life, enjoying conversations, like if I was naturally like that,
Hmm.
I probably would. Um, I probably wouldn't be talking about ego so much, or the reason why I talk about ego so much, being present, just focusing on the thing that's in front of you. Don't worry about your 5 minutes. Don't worry about your why. Don't worry about your, like, the reason why I constantly talk about that all the time is because
Mm,
that's the one thing that I struggle with the most.
mm,
I always need to find, okay, why are we doing this? I need a
mm,
why. I need a purpose. I need a goal. I need to know why we're going to go to dinner. What are we trying to achieve by end of the night? Like, I'm so like goal oriented,
you're the
maybe,
goal
or like
oriented in the family.
yeah, not goal oriented, but like
Driven by
logics
results.
oriented.
Driven
Hmm.
by results, maybe, or outcomes of everything you're doing,
Yeah,
or you
exactly.
have
So
to have a
I'm so
purpose all
focused
the
on the
time.
outcome
Yeah.
that I feel like if there is no outcome, there is no point, right? And therefore,
Mm,
I had to work on that part of me for so long. It's
mm,
like it's extra hard for me
mm,
because my ego is so high. My my me focusing on the outcome is so high. I'm so not present. I'm always living in the past or the future. So everything that I talk about, the reason why I talk about it so passionately is because those are the things that I struggle with the most.
mm.
If I didn't struggle with that all and those things came naturally, I probably wouldn't talk about it at all
Yeah.
because I'm just like, oh, that's just how it is. You know what I was thinking? Actually, like Gigi is the exact opposite of me in that sense.
Yeah.
She's
That's
always
why.
so present.
Mm,
She has no ego. She has um she's not like goal oriented, meaning we go out to have dinner.
yeah.
Just
It's
the
just
dinner
dinner.
itself is the goal. Yeah.
Yeah. The dinner is the goal.
Yeah.
You reminded me of myself before the kidney failure.
Hmm.
When I was told the first time that I have an autoimmune disease, I just got 22. It just
Hmm.
got 22. When the doctor said, we're doing biopsy because you have probably kidney disease, I didn't believe her. I thought she's crazy. She actually had to convince me to do the test. She had to sit down and look at me and convince me. And she had to say, I will do it. I will look. Sorry. She said, I'll look at your urine right now in front of you
Hmm.
because you don't trust the papers I
Hmm.
have for the results to convince me to go because I was like, there's no way I'm 22. There's no way I'm getting sick. Right. And then
Hmm.
after I was sick, I was told and take the medications and everything instead of, and I think I didn't have also the mentality, like I wasn't mature enough, right? So I was driven by the fact that I have to go to med school and redeem myself because I left med school. I left med
Hmm.
school to come here to Canada, right? So I was driven by the fact to redeem it success, to be successful, because that was the success. What's the definition of success? And all my life, I just want to be successful. This was like
But no, but see, here's the thing. I've never once wanted to be successful.
it's not success in your, this is what I read, just let me get to
Yeah.
the story. It's
Yeah.
not about success for me, it's more
Hmm.
about the purpose of life, right? My purpose,
Hmm.
the same purpose you had. Then I went on blah 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 until I did neuroscience, and then I was told that when the day I was told no, it's kidney failure 7 years later, even though I was told it's 10 years, but it failed at 7. I was like, I need to finish this degree, at least finish this degree and have the neuroscience degree, blah blah blah.
Hmm.
But the night at the hospital after my kidney transplant surgery, there's a night where I was told
Hmm.
there's a rejection.
Hmm.
Imagine going through all of this, thinking, going, and then your body rejects the kidney. And I was sitting there and I went through a traumatic night because of the medications. It's a long story. I already told it
Hmm.
in a podcast. I don't want to go through it again. But I remember thinking, if I die tonight, I don't care that I have a neuroscience
Hmm.
degree. I do not care I'm a doctor or not. I do not care about the
Hmm.
purpose. Here's
Hmm.
what I care about. And I thought about the things that I care about, right?
Hmm.
And I kid you not, I was ready to go. Even though there's a lot of things, um, the purposes I was
Yeah.
so fixated on, they just were not important
I
anymore.
mean, that's what people say, right? When they have like near death experience or something like
Yeah,
that.
near death, it's always that. And I am so thankful for that moment, by the way, because
Mhm.
even though I have purpose and I'm living life and stuff like that, um, but that moment, it just restarted something in me, right?
Mhm.
Um, that is just, I feel like purpose is a scam. This is how I see it. It's a scam.
Yeah,
I don't need to chase anything. I just need to like be here. I'm here doing this podcast with you, talking about your life, and that's it.
but it's not like I'm just not talking about life, right? For example, like if we go into the Apple store and spend $3,000 on a computer,
Yeah.
that's it's not. I'm just not doing that for no reason. There's a purpose. There's a reason why I'm buying this MacBook, so I can use this MacBook to record a podcast. There's a
Yeah.
reason why I buy this mic, and like everything in life,
Mm,
it's about you know it's about cause and effect, right? I do this, so that causes this to happen, blah blah blah. So
mm,
I mean, that's just how I'm not thinking about like some even yes purpose in life, but
mm.
also like just in purpose in why am I drinking this? Because I'm
Yeah.
thirsty. That's the purpose, right? Like it's just
It's
I don't
analytic. It's the analysis in your
yeah
brain.
yeah
You
it's
can't
if
move on
I
from it.
yeah I get in the car because I need to go to the grocery store because I need to go to the grocery store because I need to eat something and I need to, like everything I do if
Mm.
unless I can draw a clear purpose on why I'm doing this, it's hard for me to get myself to do it. And I don't know where that comes from. Like
I was going to ask you that. I was going to say what will happen if you didn't draw that. Have you
I just feel
tried?
like a lot of people think like that, don't you? Like
Like I have to do this to
especially
do
in the
this.
modern society. Yeah.
Mm.
I don't
Yes.
know actually.
No.
I don't know
Yeah.
because a lot of
No.
people
Because
enjoy sitting on the beach, which I don't.
I don't. I don't enjoy anything that involves the sun. The only sun I can handle is talking to you, sun. But anything sunny, light, beach, it's like, what are you talking about? I spent summer at home. It's
Mhm.
the worst season. All my friends know. You
Well,
know.
okay. So I like going to the water park, for example,
Yeah.
because
Okay.
if I'm swimming and if I'm doing some sort of activity, if I'm jet skiing on the beach,
Mm, mm.
I do enjoy that, right? But like for me, I can't just go on a vacation without doing
And
some sort
sit
of an
still.
activity. Yeah,
So
like I don't see the point in that.
your fun is like camping. What you said before. You said
Hmm
you like camping,
hmm
right?
Yeah, I love camping. Yeah,
You love
it's an
camping, which
actual
is
activity. Yeah,
bizarre.
yeah.
Bizarre. Right? For me. Okay. Um, but
Yeah, Gigi doesn't like camping.
yeah. What do you love about camping? Let's talk about this. What's
Like
good
I
about
think
camping?
number one is campfires. I love campfires. I love
Making them
even like
or
I
just
just
sitting
love
by them?
both of them. I
Okay.
love fire.
You love fire.
Like I
Are you a
I
Leo?
need to have
Wait, when were you
no.
born?
I'm Cancer. Yeah.
Oh, was Gigi born a month before me?
Gigi's
Not
also Cancer. Yeah.
she's also can. Oh, the
Yeah.
month before me. Okay, cool. Because that's Leo is a fire thing. Okay, so you like fire, making the fire, sitting by the fire. What else do you do
I
at
actually
camp?
think everyone likes fire.
I do love
I think
fire. I just don't like making it. I
uh,
like being away. I like it, seeing it, enjoying the sound.
I think that's why a lot of kids play with fire
Yeah,
because something about fire that draws us in. It's just when you watch fire, it's mesmerizing. It's just
that's a
something
great
about fire.
analogy. It
Uh,
reminded me about you um, when you left home because you like
uh,
playing with fire. Fire being the things that you're not supposed to do, right?
yeah,
And this is what
but it's also probably has to do with the fact that fire is one of the tech like controlling fire is one of the technological advances that made us who we are, right? Like we as humans, we wouldn't be where we are today if we didn't
figured out
utilize
fire.
fire. Yeah,
Mm, mm,
it's so it has
probably.
probably has something to do with that.
Okay. So you like camping, you like fire. I'm like,
I think the same thing with water. I think people are obsessed with water because it has something to do with survival. Like people love going to the pool, going
Oh,
to the beach,
okay.
playing in water. Like,
Water for me is holy
uh
because it's mentioned in Quran that everything in life is made out of water.
yeah.
So water for us, at least for me, because I read a lot of Quran and I just
But do
my
you like
relation,
water? Do you like
yeah,
going to the pool? Do you like
yeah.
taking a bath? Do
I
you like those
don't
kind of
I
things?
don't like going to the pool for my immune system diseases things, but I love taking. In fact, before this, I was so stressed. I took
Hmm.
like a warm shower. Right.
Yeah.
I
You
absolutely
always
love
feel better
water.
after a shower. Yeah.
Yeah, no, yeah, I get people get their ideas in the shower, and like
Yeah.
when you're stressed, you shower 3 4 times a day. It's that relationship between human and water is, I think it's one of the wonders
It's
in the
something
world.
innate, I think.
Yeah,
It's like something that you can't really explain why.
no, and you know how like babies when they're born, the moment you bath them, they just asleep.
Hmm. Yeah.
The moment you put
Yeah.
like water in, they're like
Hmm.
even during the
I
paddling.
even love like when I used to live in New York,
Yeah.
just looking out the window and just seeing the river.
Mm,
Like I I,
it's
I
beautiful.
can just stare at the river and just,
Forever. I
yeah.
used to live by the
Maybe not
beach.
forever.
Um, it's not forever, but it seems forever for someone who doesn't like to sit still, right? Like you don't
Yeah.
like just doing nothing. You have to
Yeah,
be
that's why. Yeah.
talking, doing
So
this one.
there's
So
still a little bit of human in me. I'm not totally a robot, right? There's still a
you
little bit of
are
human in me,
that
but
exact, like you are human. There's not such a thing as robot. I see everything human about you. Like you don't see it, but I see it. Okay. I lived by water
like
and I
staring
used
at
to
a
live.
river
So
is completely pointless,
it's
but I
not
do it. Or
pointless,
staring at
calming.
the fire.
It's
Yeah.
calming. What are you talking
Yeah.
about? It's very
But I'm saying,
calming
like, to me, there's
to your
no outcome
analytical
that's going to come
brain.
out of it. Yeah. Yeah.
Not even the peace you get inside. Isn't that an outcome?
Yeah. But what I guess what I'm saying is, 99% of the time, I don't even notice it, right? Because
Mm,
I used to live actually like right by the river. So you can
mm,
literally look at the river 24/7 if you want to.
mm,
But I never did, right?
mm.
But then when I do, I'm like, oh, this is nice.
Wow.
Or something like that, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I used to live by in Abu Dhabi. I used to live by. It's not. Is it a? It's not a river. It's a
But
gulf.
I'm definitely, like you said
Yeah.
before, outcome driven, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's something that I struggle with a lot.
Okay. I want to visit stuff. So we have like
Hmm.
kind of like a path of your
Hmm.
film. So the first I see you, the first moment, the first scene,
Hmm.
moving to the U.S., right? And I think we can go back and forth here in your opening scenes from you moving to U.S. to you getting married, and then you leaving your house, having the fight,
Hmm.
right, with your
Hmm.
dad, and then we go from there to the bullies. When moving to the US, then we go to you smoking weed with your
Hmm.
friends, and then some of your um, youth life when you were
Hmm.
working, right? Meeting Gigi, then coming back to you going to 7-Eleven, right?
Hmm.
And then what else happened? Sneaking out of the house, right? And then coming back to you getting married, and before the getting married, with the sneaking out of the house, is you meeting your parents again.
Something must have happened because when you put it that way, when I was young, actually, when I was going to 7-Eleven or, you know,
Mm,
when I'm just hanging out with my friends, it's not like there's like a purpose to that, right? Like I actually wasn't really outcome driven,
mm,
probably when I was younger.
mm.
So it's
Okay.
probably something that happened later in life.
Do you think that something that happened, I am guessing
Hmm.
here, is the fact that you were told you were very curious and that will be your downfall, and you choosing all the wrong choices that you knew they were
No,
wrong?
because
No.
even though my mom always said that, I still did it, all of those things.
No,
So I never stopped. Yeah,
it's not stopping. It's more
yeah.
like um I'll prove you wrong by succeeding or by
By being
being
curious, maybe, yeah, maybe, yeah.
maybe like You know what I mean? Like, because you are rebellious, and I know that, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's there is a tiny bitty selfish thing in me is like when my father says don't do that, I want to do the thing to prove him
Yeah,
that
yeah.
it's not that bad to do it, and even if I it was a mistake, I can get myself out of that mistake and
Yeah,
and
yeah,
get
yeah.
something out of
It,
it, even if it's a
there's definitely
mistake.
a lot of that. Yeah.
There's a lot of that. So
Hmm.
isn't that, wouldn't that be something that driven you to be purpose oriented?
No, I don't think it's that.
Hmm.
I think it has a lot to do with time.
Time.
Like,
You changing your person when you talk time, is your personality shift or
I think
age?
it's what it started when I started my business. When
Okay.
I started Nida, because before you start your business,
Mm,
I never look at time as like something like I never look at time as like money or
mm,
anything valuable, right? It's just like,
okay.
I have 2 hours to kill. I can just sit here and hang out with my friend for 2 hours, right?
Mm,
Once you're running a business, you don't think that way. Like I can't just kill 2 hours here. Like that 2 hours
mm.
needs to go to something productive or something. You know what I mean?
Oh, okay.
I actually think, yeah, like I think owning a business had a lot to do with it.
So that's
Focusing on
a
the outcome.
an entrepreneur mindset.
Yeah, maybe, yeah,
Yeah.
but I didn't have that before when I worked in a company. I couldn't care
But
less how
work,
much time I wasted.
yeah, but that's we were not the person
Yeah,
responsible for that company. You
yeah,
were the
exactly.
person
Yeah.
responsible for a task.
Actually, when I was working in a 9 to 5 job, my goal
Yeah,
was to try to waste as much time as possible.
because you didn't
You know
like
what I mean?
it.
Yeah,
But
like
yeah,
because
okay.
like yeah, I would sit in the office and we would play video games and
Oh,
you know try to find ways to kill time. Whereas
that's.
in now,
But if
mm-mm.
I like, I am the opposite of you. I think if I have my own thing, I could just go for hours to do it and perfect it. But if someone else jobs, I'll be stressed
Well,
about
but
it.
like when you work in a 9 to 5 job, sometimes there's just nothing to do, and that's how
So,
my job was. Like
what
I
were
would
you
sit there for
doing?
8 hours a day.
What were
I
you
was
doing?
working in IT,
Oh,
so
IT.
like if there's like a problem, then you have to fix it, right? But
Mm,
most of the time there was no problem, and if there was a problem, it's something I can finish in an hour. So I literally used to go to work, spend 8 hours a day,
mm,
and I had about an hour of actual work. If I actually wanted to, like, I could have probably spent an hour a day and just finish all my work every day. Like that's how
mm.
much work I actually had, right?
What made
So
you decide to leave? Was it? I feel like you told us a story, but why don't you tell
mhm.
us now? What made you decide to leave
I think it's
and make
not
that
that I
move?
made a decision to leave. I think
Okay.
what happens a lot is that a lot of us when we go into a 9 to 5 job,
Mm,
I don't think any of us actually wants to work in a 9 to 5 job where I'm only going to work so that I can get a paycheck. I don't think any human being, like if I ask every human being and said, if you got the same exact paycheck without going to the job, would you
mm,
choose that versus this? They would definitely choose that, right? But I think what happens is once you or if I say you're going to get the same exact
mm,
paycheck, but
mm,
instead of going to office or going to work, doing work 9 to 5, you can be working from home. It doesn't matter. But imagine instead of working, you were doing what you want to do, right? Like I think
absolutely.
everyone would choose that, right?
Mm,
But I think a lot of times for me what happened was when you work in a 9 to 5 job for 5 years,
mm,
you become like a zombie, and you don't even remember why you're doing it. It just becomes like a pattern, and it's just
mm,
So as soon as like I guess it wasn't like what it made me leave and start a business. It wasn't like that. It's what I wanted to do the whole time, but the job has just made it so comfortable for me not to.
mm.
Do you understand what I mean?
Yes. Yeah,
And
you were
actually,
in
I know
comfort
that for
zone.
a fact because I left that job and I started freelancing.
Mm,
And when I was freelancing for a year, It was stressful, but it was fun. It
Mm,
felt like I was living for the first time, right? And then
okay.
after that freelancing, actually went back to a job for 2 years,
Mm,
and I can literally see my brain shutting off.
mm.
Like now that I'm getting a paycheck every 2 weeks, when you're not getting a paycheck every 2 weeks, then you don't know where your next payment is going to come from,
You
and you're
gotta work
constantly
hard.
like struggling. Yeah, like you're actually like living life. That's when you're living life.
Mm,
But once you're getting paycheck every 2 weeks, it's directly deposited to your bank account. You have a health benefit. You have 401k. Everything is
yeah,
all set and taken care of. Your brain shuts off and it goes into this lazy mode, and like you're not actually trying to make anything of yourself. Even if you wanted to be like, oh, one day I want to, make a film or something like that.
yeah,
You're like, oh, I'm tired today. I'll start tomorrow. That tomorrow turns into next week, to next month, and before you know it, 5 years has passed by. And
true.
I actually think most people live life like that. And before you know it, you're 50 years old. Your children has moved out, and most of your life is gone.
Yeah, I agree with that. I don't know who posted this on Instagram. It was one of the night owls that a 9 to 5 is a modern invention. And before that, everyone has their own business. And when you look at back in the history, that's a
Yeah, like
fact.
farmers. Yeah.
Yeah, like people, like each country had their own business going on. But for us, it was farmers.
Hmm.
But there's always
So
something
nine to
to
five, I
do.
think, came with the manufacturing, like in the
Yes,
industrial revolution. Yeah,
yes. So it we are
thanks to
we
Henry
are
Ford.
prisoners to this to this module, and I think it. Ray and I were talking about conspiracy theories,
Mhm.
and I don't believe in them because I think we
What theory?
willingly conspiracy theories, like in
Hmm.
general, we were talking at that time. Like you have to watch the show. You have to watch
Hmm.
the episode
I
because it
watched
was a.
like the first 40 minutes of it. You
Oh,
guys were
okay.
talking about autism.
Yeah, and yeah, then I think we went from that to something else. And
Mhm.
anyway, so, and I said I don't believe in conspiracy theories as them being conspiracies because we willingly participate in them and we are aware of them. And at
Oh,
that
I see what you
time,
mean.
you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, conspiracy theory isn't like they're like and I think everyone knows this, right? It's not like there's like Dr. Evil sitting in a chair, like conspiring to do. Like that's not how it happens, right? It's just
No,
it's
it's a
a
model that
it,
we follow.
yeah, yeah.
Right, we were talking, I remember we're talking about how one country, because we talked about Korea and the US, and she had this experience too,
Hmm.
because she was raised in US, went back to Korea, and the bullying and everything.
Hmm.
And I said it's sad that we consider one country is better than the other. What, how are we got into this system? And we started to talk about this racism, discrimination, etc. And it's a system that's beneficial for people, for some people, and that's why it's still running to date, right? So is 9 to 5. It's like
Yeah,
a
like I don't
model.
think there's like I think racism is not like there's a racist culture or there's some conspiracy systematic racism, or I don't think it's like that. I don't think there's like some like Freemasons sitting somewhere making up the rules to support the white male. That I don't think that's what's happening. I think what's happening is I think all humans have a little bit of racism in them, and I think it's biological because historically what happened is like let's say you're from this tribe and a
Mm,
brand new tribe that looks completely different comes into your territory, right?
yeah, has to do with
That
survival.
has that you need to survive, right? And sometimes it's just because of actual violence, but sometimes it's because like disease. Sometimes
Mm,
when an outsider comes in, they bring new
something.
germs with them, and then
Mm,
something happens where so we had to be very wary of outsiders our
yeah,
whole human
life.
history, right?
Yeah, so it's
And I
wired
think
with your genetics.
yeah, I think it's some like because I go to Korea and Koreans are racist against other Koreans from different
Colors.
regions.
Yes.
I
And
just
that's
feel like
what we
it's
talked about.
so
Yeah.
and you even said like like difference between Dubai and both, even though you guys are both Muslim or both of you are Arabic, Like just because
Well,
you came from Sudan, they look at it, and
I'm
there's some of
Afro
that.
Arab. Look, you can't take the fact that I'm black too out of the equation in that, and they consider
There, I
themselves
see
the
what you mean.
white
Okay,
thing,
yeah,
right? So
yeah.
you can't take this away, even though
I mean, that's a little bit more extreme because it's
colorism.
like obvious. Like you can see the
It's,
difference
it's
with
not.
your eyes,
It,
but
it's obvious to us, not to you. Does that make sense? Like I remember one time someone asked me if I'm from Lebanon. If a Lebanese person hear this, I kid you not, they will be offended, right? Because
mm,
because of how they are wired. That literally,
yeah,
I
yeah, yeah,
you know what I mean. You know what I mean. So it's the
yeah.
same thing in Korea because in Sudan,
Like for example, I know that like a lot of Filipinos
mm,
get discriminated in Korea.
yeah, in Dubai
So
too.
yeah, and it's also the reason why my parents didn't want me to marry a Chinese girl. Like so, I feel like it's a little bit of that is already within us,
Mm,
and then you put all of us of all different cultures in one country, and then before you know it, something's gonna happen where, like like if you look at Tinder,
mm,
you know, Asian males are the least desired by any females, and
okay.
Asian females are the most desired by any males,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And I can look at that and be like, oh, it's racism, but is it really racism or is it just human nature that you know that they just
It's
tend
culture.
to yeah. I guess it's cultural too, but it's
Yeah.
culture doesn't happen like it's because maybe you see a lot of like white male characters
Mm,
represented as like the hero in most films or something like that.
mm.
But I mean, that's it's who defines culture? The people do.
Yeah.
You know
That's
what I
what
mean?
I.
Like, okay, let's put an Asian male character. Like, is that movie gonna do well?
Mm,
Like,
yeah.
I don't know. Like, probably not. And so
I
I
was
just feel
going to
like it's like,
say it's just convenient to follow, and this
mhm,
is what Ray and I were saying. It's convenient to follow that for, like, for example, if you to marry in my culture, if you
mhm,
to marry someone from outside, an outsider, of course depends on where they are from, you're going to be treated
mhm,
differently. Now within Sudan, if you
mhm.
married from the south, that's it's a shame, right? At that, when I was there, I don't know what's
Okay.
happening now. So south and north now are separated, by the way, just like you guys. So and then it goes by tribes within the north, right?
Okay.
And then after tribes, it goes by where everyone is living, and then after everyone is
Mhm,
living, there is status. It's just an endless like list, right? And then what happens when you decide to take that person, you made this decision just like you making night owl. You make this decision that you're responsible for, that is going to affect other people. The other people are your kids, who are going to be coming as offspring of this marriage that no one agrees to, and then they're going to be treated in a certain way by the community, your parents and everyone else, right? Unless you live in a country right here, so they're going just to be with everyone else as a minority, and
mhm,
and
mhm.
notice the change and notice the change, differences. But over there, I was treated differently at some point, even though my parents look like, but just because they were separated, right? Which is was like what you said, coming to
Yeah, it's
Korea,
cultural.
coming,
Yeah.
it's culture.
Yeah.
You come here, you're not a majority, anyways. You're a
Mhm,
minority. So I became from a person who's assimilate to the culture to a minority who has their parents separated. Makes sense?
mhm.
So I think it's just more convenient for people to follow, than
Yeah,
to.
and I think it's the same thing with what we were talking about like the whole like the 9 to 5
Yes.
thing. It's like it's I don't think somebody sat there and said we're going to enslave all these people by brainwashing them to go get a 9 to 5 job. That's not what happened, right? They're like, what's the most efficient way to build cars? Okay,
Mm,
and to have a factory instead of one person building a car from beginning to end.
mm,
It's better if one person all they do is just screw this one screw,
yeah.
and then we have 10,000 people doing one job, and that's like the most efficient way. So in order to do that, we need to create the system, a factory
Mm.
line, and then like
And
same
then
thing, and
people
then
get
that happens
jobs.
to
Yeah.
yeah.
And then
And I
like it
think that's
becomes a
just what
culture.
happened. Yeah,
Yeah, it becomes a culture like, oh, I got a job at the factory, it pays well.
yeah,
And then after
yeah.
the job, there's the accountant job, and everyone wants to be an accountant. Then this job, everyone wants to,
Hmm.
and then it became convenient to live this life. And it became even to our culture to the point where like there are people right now who would make your resume and LinkedIn profile and blah 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 for you to get a 9 to 5, right? So it's
Yeah,
just a whole system. Um,
yeah. That was incentivized to
yeah.
get your degree, go get a safe job
Mm-hmm.
security.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
guess at some point, and yeah, like exploitation, it does happen, right? But also, again, I think it's human nature to exploit other things, like whether it's other humans or other,
Yeah.
like
Survival
if
nature.
you're riding a horse, you're exploiting a horse,
Yeah.
right? Like so, like when we're eating plants, we're exploiting that plant. So no matter
Yeah.
how you look at it,
It is
I
what
feel
it
like it's
is.
kind of human nature of like it's the selfish genes, like it's us trying to survive or something like that. And I just
Yeah.
think some people are more extreme than others, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
But I think
Mm-hmm.
it's the nature of all of these things living in this one planet or whatever it is
Okay.
that's causing all of this to happen. I don't think it's by design. I don't think somebody designed um, like 9 to 5 system. I don't think somebody designed racism, or it's just
No,
it's
they didn't
naturally
design
evolved.
racism, but they used it in colonizing other countries, right? It's something that was convenient. Like when you
Yeah,
talk
yeah, yeah, yeah.
about Korea
But do
or
you think?
Sudan or
Let me
any
ask you
place.
this:
Okay.
if you were in 1930, like in 1938, Nazi Germany, let's say you were German, white German woman living in Nazi Germany, and you were part of the Nazi movement, which
Mm.
almost majority of the country was, would you have thought of yourself as a racist?
No.
Probably not,
Mm.
right?
Mm.
So it's not. I don't think it's like. That's why I don't think it's by design.
No, it's
You
not
know what
by
I mean?
design.
Yeah,
It's what people follow without
yeah,
thinking,
yeah.
basically. And it's hard for thinkers like you, right? Because you analyze everything. It's
Yeah.
hard for thinkers, I kid you not, because I'm not analytical, right? Like you, I don't have your mind, but I think of the why when I don't like doing the thing, or when it doesn't make sense in my head, which what got me in trouble, got you in trouble as well, right?
Hmm.
Um, we just,
So you do have an analytical mind, I think.
you think so? I don't see it.
Yeah.
I see my
Because it's the
emotions get
reason
in
why
the way.
it's the reason why it got you in trouble because you would question things, right? So,
Okay.
which I think is important. I feel like
Do you think it's
we're losing a lot of that. I could like I don't know if I could be where I am today
hmm,
if I didn't let the worst part of me out in my 30s.
what was the worst thing that you had to accept?